Soka. This is, from the stables of TWAYMEDIA, and this is the presentation of Afro Soka. My name is Gabe. Welcome. If you're watching us for the very first time, don't forget to smack a like on there and give us a follow. Okay. We are going to be talking about on this program, all our episodes, we're going to be talking about African football, and we will be having colleagues joining us, to African experts, I might say. We'll be talking, we'll be obviously going around the world of football in Africa, and obviously chatting away about how we represent or present Africa football. How we showcase it back on the where it should belong. So as you know, there's something going on in Africa at the moment in terms of football, and it's called WAFCON. It's the Women African Cup of Nations. So we've got the AFCON for the men and we've got the WAFCON for the women. So the WAFCON is going on in Morocco, and it's been exciting so far. We've seen some very I will not say disappointment, but some surprises going on. And one of the surprises was the match that was played today between Ghana and Mali. It ended 1-1. We expected Ghana to actually win. Ghana, the Black Queens, they are called, to actually win and obviously defeat Mali, but it was not so. So the goals were scored by, for Ghana, it was by Alice Kusi. She plays her trade in Saudi Arabia. So she was the one who scored for Ghana. And Aissata Traore scored for Mali. But like I said, I have got colleagues that would be joining me on the show today and going forward. Without much ado, I'm just going to interview and bring them up to the studio and obviously introduce them to you. So like I said, we're going to be talking about African football. And generally today on the menu, we've got WAFCON, we've got FIFA Club World Cup that is ongoing. You know, we had African representatives at the World Cup in America. That's the Club World Cup in America. Unfortunately, none of the African teams are in the final, but we will be looking at what Africa can learn from this World Cup financially, in terms of obviously developing football in Africa and marketing, which is really very important, because the winner of this competition, give or take, will probably be going home with about $120 million. That's some good money for an African team, should an African team one day probably win it. We're also going to be looking at transfers, and we're looking solely at African footballers who are going to be switching sides, actually. We've got some very interesting transfer concerning two of Africa's most illustrious footballers. One of them, Mohamed Kudus, has left West Ham from East London. He's making a short trip to North London to join Spurs. And the other, still in limbo, Victor Osimhen. We do not know what's happening, but as it is at this time, it's about like 1/4 everything being signed at Galatasaray. So like I said, I've got my colleagues here. I've got Benjamin Graham, who is a football expert. I'm tempted not to call him an African football expert. I'm going to call him world football expert. So, but because this is just going to be Africa, so I'm going to Graham, Charlie, I am just going to call you for today African football expert.
So, okay, that's fine. I mean, the biggest person is definitely going to join us. You hear from him soon.
Oh, definitely, yes. So yeah, welcome, Graham, to the show. And
it's a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. Nuhu Adams, another person joining us on the show today.
He's the biggest African football expert. He's the biggest.
Guru, I call him the guru.
Yes.
Guru of African football. And we're going to be talking about all things African today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Both of you, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining. So I just want us to start with obviously what is going on in Morocco. I want to start from your beloved Black Queens of Ghana. And I want to ask you, what's going on? 1-1 against Mali, previous game, 2-0 against South Africa. I know South Africa and Bayana, they are probably one of the top teams in women's football in Africa. But what's going on with Ghana football, especially with the women? Let's start with that. Let me start with you, Graham, before I go to the guru.
I think that for some years, the team has really not been competitive. The fact is we've not qualified for the WAFCON, we've not qualified for the Women's World Cup, and we've not even qualified for the Olympic Games. So the team has been a little bit dormant. And what I remember when Nora Haptel took charge, what she was doing was to play a lot of international friendly matches, trying to get the players and know the players and build the capacity and strength towards very competitive competitions. And she started pretty well with the Olympic Games qualification. The only side effect of that qualification was our defeat to Zambia. We lost the game at home and went out to, play a very competitive game back in Lusaka. But then it was a little too late. And very interestingly, as soon as the team returned from, Zambia, the Zambians approached Nora Haptel with a juicy package, which of course made her to ditch Ghana and move to Zambia. And so kind of like brought a little bit of a gap between the players in terms of their forward match in the qualification. Then also, I have to also make it clear that the team had already qualified for the women's WAFCON. So it was like they were to prepare for the competition, and then Nora left for Zambia. Yes, because the Zambian team was very juicy. The Zambian team had prepared adequately for the Olympic Games. They had qualification in terms of prospects going into the Women's World Cup and all that. So Nora looked at the prospect of the Zambian side and felt that this is more competitive than where I am, and she left. I think yes, another Swedish player, Lars, who was coming, and unfortunately, I think the players have not deactivated Nora from their minds, and there's a little bit of Nora in their thinking and behavior. And so you could actually see the difficulties in terms of unwinding any effect. And obviously, Nora is also in Morocco with Zambia now. So, and she's had a very good relationship with the players. I think Larson also came in at a point where now he also needed to build his own aura with a team. And that's been a difficulty with which I think there was not enough time for him to do that. So I think it's all about timing, preparation, and that's the result we are getting.
No, I'll bring you on this. Ghana, Zambia. I mean, with all due respect to Zambia, when it comes to football, we all know that there's no basis for comparison. Okay, I know Zambia obviously had a golden generation for the men, but Zambia they're slowly creeping in. But for a person to choose between Ghana and Zambia because of the prospects of the Zambian team, what's your take on that? I mean, Ghana, you can never discount Ghana. Ghana is a superpower when it comes to football in Africa.
Yeah, I would start by saying the Black Prince is still regarded as a top team just because of history. In recent years, we regressed drastically, and that's a fact about the team. Years ago, if any other country was supposed to win the Women's AFCON aside from Nigeria, it was Ghana. But today, we are lagging behind three or four more other countries. Today, it's still Nigeria number one, South Africa number two. Then Zambia will move in as number three. Then probably we add Morocco as number four. Now all these countries are bypassing us. We can't beat Mali again. The last time we faced Mali in the Women's AFCON, that was 2018 when Ghana played us host. We lost 2-1 to Mali. And today we failed to meet Mali. That means Mali is getting stronger and stronger, and they are overcoming Ghana. We have seen what the likes of Senegal, Ivory Coast, and other countries are putting in into their teams to make sure they also move up or move above Ghana. Yes, coaching could be a factor, but I think we've lacked quality in recent years, and that has been the main reason why we are far behind now.
But Manu, where's the quality going to come from? No, I mean, if these are the players we have, basically, we don't have any other players.
I'm coming there. In 2018, when we hosted the Women's AFCON in Ghana, I had the opportunity to meet the Seri Ellis, who is the coach of South Africa, on countless occasions, asking about how she has been able to build that solid team for Banyana, because their story has been very, very consistent. They were finalists in 2018 in Ghana, and then becoming champions in Morocco in the last edition. So I asked about how she's been able to do it, and that's the answer she gave was that women's football is quite different from men's football. The building a team for a women's team requires a lot of effort, requires a lot of time, requires a lot of everything a human is supposed to put in. So you see the Banyana team. She told where everything started from, getting them from their various hideouts in South Africa, putting them together as a team. Now, when she put them together as a team, now the players are exposed. Teams are coming for them. They are playing COSAFA Cup every single year. They are playing a lot of friendly matches. They are playing so many games. That is how you can get your women's team active and proficient if you want to do something great in women's football. So it goes on and on and on. This Black Queens team qualified for the AFCON, and at some point it was very difficult for Ghana to even get friendly matches to play, and it is one of the main reasons why Nora decided to ditch Ghana and go for Zambia, because Gambia were playing friendlies. They had played Morocco back and forth. They played 2 times against Morocco in Morocco. Just recently, they played against Morocco again. They played a lot of friendlies. They played against some European teams. They played against some American teams. And that was how they were able to get their teams in shape. South Africa played against Chile. They played against a lot of teams. They played against Mexico. They are playing against top sides. But you come to Ghana, the only friendlies we could get were teams that had not even qualified for the Women's AFCON. And women's football, we know the pedigree of countries like Benin, Guinea-Bissau, and then Malawi. If you beat these teams, it is not a guarantee that you have a very solid team.
But you remember when Nora was playing these friendly matches? Some of the times we used to meet at Accra Sports Stadium and we discussed these things, and we were raising the point that what if we meet South Africa? What if we meet Cameroon? What if we meet the very top teams? Those questions were asked, remember? And
yes.
Pretty much so when we met Zambia at home, we saw the jitteriness in the players, which of course we lost.
Even apart from the Zambia game, in the Olympic qualifiers, when we played against Namibia and other countries that were a bit on top of their game, we struggled.
Yeah,
and that was
gentlemen. Yeah. Could this be that the authorities back in Ghana are not actually placed in that much emphasis, or probably not investing in Africa? Sorry, in women's football. Rather, they probably feel, you know what? I think the guys are probably doing. We want to concentrate on the guys now. Yeah, let's just leave the women to do what they want to do. Could that be the case?
Well, the authorities are doing well. I think now we have a very good league. We have a lot of competitions going on. But when it comes to national team football, especially the women's national team, it requires a lot of time, a lot of attention. That's why I was saying, yes, you can do the investment, but the investment must be right. That's why South Africa will play against the USA That Africa will play against Spain. That Africa will try as much as possible, bring Chile to South Africa to play against them. You see Nigeria playing against top teams like Morocco. Zambia is playing against Morocco, home and away. They are playing. They are always trying to get best teams to play against. That's the only opportunity for you to test your team.
And no, have you heard of the Grannies Football Tournament?
I've not heard it yet.
The Grannies Football Tournament, and this is a football World Cup made up of grannies, women at the age of yeah. And I've been following the Grannies Football Tournament, and it started as an NGO in South Africa, where old women as late as their 70s had a football team and were playing football. I saw that Grannies Football as a means of marketing women's football and branding women's football, or encouraging women's football in Botswana, Tanzania, South Africa, and those countries. Again, you're looking at life expectancy, you're looking at the people who can grow to certain ages, and looking at the health factors of the women. So the mindset is that the last time I watched Botswana play at WAFCON, I was like, wow, that is incredible, because they had a very good side. So the point I'm raising here is that if you're a young lady and you have a granny of 65 or 50 playing football, I mean, it encourages the young generation to even want to go into football. And no, one of the major concerns we have had in West Africa has been the ability of the girl child being encouraged to play football. So if South Africa's football is growing the way we are talking about it, or Botswana or Tanzania and the rest, it's because there is that strategic marketing and branding plan to encourage everybody, including our grannies, to play football. So the younger generation is forced to play. I have said that let's bring the grannies football to West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso and the rest, and see whether that marketing plan will encourage the younger generation of girls to play football. Because I was thinking that it was a smart plan, even though it was meant to battle isolation, the widowhood situations in those countries, women whose husbands are maltreating them in terms of abuses. So those were the means to get them to enter into sports. But for them to use football as a means to get them out, and to have lots of young girls in those countries going into football, obviously it was going to be difficult for us to beat them. Because today we are talking about lack of talent. Why do we have it? Is it that we have it and they are not nurtured? Is it that currently the national team or the Ghana Football Association has a girls under 15 and then the juvenile football national teams? So in terms of talent, we have them. But are they talents that can lead us into victory? Today, Zambia has the world's most expensive, is it women footballer? The world's.
They have
Kunanaji.
Yes, and Barbara Banda is also in there.
Barbara Banda. And I do recall this Ngatlana from South Africa when she moved to the US. So look at the number of players who are moving to higher leagues from other countries as compared to Ghana and maybe other countries. It's not the same. Our players are playing the lower tier leagues in Scandinavian countries and the rest. Meanwhile, the Zambian and the other players are moving to the US, some are moving to the UK and the rest. I watched the WSL here. How many players are moving direct from Africa to play in the WSL? Say Manchester United, Man City, Tottenham and the rest. How many? Or Arsenal?
So we don't have them. Let's go back to the WAFCON. I know we've spoken so much about what the deficiencies are, and I suppose the issue now is as it applies to even the male football national teams in Africa. We see the likes of Cape Verde coming out of nowhere, and they're playing brilliant soccer, and all that. So let's come back to the competition itself. We're still in the group stages. I mean, it's not looking too good for Ghana at the moment. They've only got 1 point.
Calm down. Okay, calm down.
I go calm down. Do you see Ghana qualifying from that group they are in? Well, in that group, they're last at the moment. Are they last? No, I think they're third at the moment. You've got South Africa there, and you've got Tanzania then, and obviously Tanzania lost the first game as well. So, any chance Ghana qualifying from this group? Any chance Ghana the Black Queens, probably doing well in this WAFCON?
No, do you believe in us? No, I trust you believe.
Um, I think now everything is on us. We have no excuse than to beat Tanzania in our last match before we could qualify. But as I earlier stated, this is a team I have never had believed in them because I've been watching what other countries have been doing. I've been seeing their friendly matches. I've been seeing their matches, and I know the strength of each and every team coming to the women's AFCON. We are capable of beating Tanzania, but we are not convincing enough to let us stick our neck out that we are going to beat Tanzania. Tanzania will give South Africa a very tough time tonight. If they are able to get even a draw against South Africa, that is going to be enough motivation to come and face Ghana with full strength, and that is going to be very, very difficult for us. I think we have a chance, but the chance is very, very slim.
Graham, we haven't spoken about the Super Falcons of Nigeria.
I mean,
what's your thinking? Do you foresee a situation where the Super Falcons, and let's call this the X mission, for them to get this to win this competition? And they've got look at the lineup for the Super Falcons. Top players, wherever, and obviously the goalkeeper Nanose is now moved to Brighton from Paris FC, and you see Golswala there, but Ajibade is also there, and the others. So, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be an easy run for the Super Falcons to get to the finals and probably win this, or do you see them stumbling?
I think the last time I worked on the women's AFCON was the year South Africa won, and I feel Nigeria in the semifinals against Morocco were a little bit were undone by some decisions that happened on the pitch with the red card and all those things, and I felt that Nigeria, the whole continent was. I think I was even talking to a friend of mine, a Nigerian colleague, and she was like, having won it for 9 times, the tournament just needed a new winner. And it was just like we needed a new winner because it was not going to be fun anymore, because it's always been the Super Falcons, the Super Falcons, the Super Falcons. So at least let there be a new winner for the competition. So at the semifinals, you could actually see that then the whole system was just against the Super Falcons from getting to the final. It was just glaring. And Morocco was just poised to make that count. So they beat the Super Falcons on penalties and had the chance of qualifying to the finals. And then South Africa eventually won it. So it was just the same scenario that this season or this tournament, I have not seen the strength that much, even though the Super Falcons beat Ghana in the practice match. But it appears Zambia drawing with the host nation. I feel Zambia is really trying to make a statement, even though last time they did make a statement, but it wasn't as strong as they are making now with Nora in there. But Morocco, in the first game, coming from behind twice against Zambia, I was a bit surprised because the last time they won, I mean, it was all Morocco, just banging the goals as and when they wanted. So it looks as though it's looked like an evenly spread performance from the Super Falcons, from Zambia, from Morocco. Even if you look at the Mali, Ghana, Tanzania, South Africa group, again, I'm not really seeing the South Africans coming out. Maybe it just be one match yet. Going into the second matches and going to the next stages, I may be able to see the teams come out. But if you ask me now whether the Super Falcons are the same team that I want them to win, I haven't seen them come out, gun blazing like before.
Before we wrap up on the WAFCON, I just wanted to talk about some ugly scenes that happened when Nigeria played their last game yesterday, and when we had a pitch invasion. And we don't. This is now becoming something we organizers, not just CAF in this instance, probably FIFA as well, we need to probably clamp down on, because it felt a bit scary for those girls, seeing a very hefty person, man, run onto the pitch. You know, even as a man, you see a fellow man running on the pitch. Is scary enough. But we saw a man running onto the pitch where when these girls were playing. It must have been really very scary for them. I want you guys to share a word on this, and what you think we could probably be doing to secure our venues more, and probably need to also be tough on this kind of people. I mean, if it means being banned from stadium across Africa, then we could do that. If it means, probably serving jail time, and they can see what, that guy confronting the Nigerian girl there over there. So I just want you to say a word on this, each of you.
Well, I think the punishments we give to this kind of I don't know how to describe them. The punishment have been very, very minimal. That's how I put it, because we know the examples of these happenings in Europe and elsewhere, and we know the stricter punishment they give to them. Some of the majority of the fans ended up being banned for life. They are not attending matches anymore. They are not even getting close to the stadiums anymore. But in Africa, it is hard to see a fan being banned. I've never heard any story about a pitch invader being banned.
It does happen, especially I know of the EPL where fans are banned because there's a system that can identify who they are, their address system, and all those things. And it's not clubs even ban fans who invade pitches or who misbehave towards or even chants racist chants and stuff like that. Those things are there, especially when it comes to the EPL and the rest.
I'm talking about happening in Africa. I've never heard any African fan who has misbehaved banned before.
How are you able to identify the fan the next match?
That's the problem. That means we have a porous system. We don't have a system that can clamp down this kind of things, and it keeps continuing. Every single tournament or every single football match we play on the continent, at least you have one pitch invader. And in some countries, pitch invaders are even hailed as heroes. I think it happened in Ghana when a pitch invader was hailed by the people because they feel he was tough enough to get onto the pitch. The understanding of the game is also one key thing, and I think a lot more of education must be carried along. But we don't punish our pitch invaders. We don't punish even hooligans, let alone pitch invaders. And I think there is a canker Africa will have to look at it at large.
I mean, the thing is, Morocco is a very strict country when it comes to the laws. So I am particularly disappointed that this young man could actually break the barriers and then walk onto the pitch at this level. I have not heard the punishment that has been meted to the young man by the Moroccan authorities or even CAF. I'm yet to see any statement released by CAF. I don't know if anybody has really seen anything like that from CAF about the pitch invasion. For me, that's the sad story. And again, the one in charge of security at the stadium would have to answer a lot of questions as to how this young man was able to invade the pitch. This is, like you said, it's very scary. And he went there topless. What was the signal? What was the message he was trying to send across the world? And CAF certainly should be concerned about some of these things, especially the safety of the girls in this competition. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. So let's talk about. We're talking about competitions, and we've already spoken about how we will need to develop, football. And if both of you suggested some very beautiful ideas. We've talked about the granny football tournament in South Africa that we're thinking maybe we could bring to the west coast of Africa and all that. I want to bring you into the FIFA World Cup because that's FIFA Club World Cup. That's because there's another big thing going on at the moment. And we are an African representative, of course, at the event. Esperance Tunis, and Sundowns. And I they did well, okay, as far as they could. They did well as far as they could. But I want to look at. I want us to discuss how Africa, as it's a continent, can also make a statement. I know, and I'm going to be a little bit. I'm just going to go out of my way now to do a comparison between Africa and Brazil, okay? Because Brazil and even Saudi Arabia, those continents have made an extra statement, in this FIFA Club World Cup. So the onus is on Africa now to probably in the next edition, in the next 4 years, to also go there and make a statement, and not just making a statement, also using that marketing opportunity, using that exposure to market and showcase African football. Because now we're not talking about the club size. Because when you talk about, we're not talking about the national teams. Because when you talk about the national teams, we can always pick players that play in European club sides, Saudi Arabian club sides, or probably in Brazilian club sides, and we'll talk about, this is national football. But we're talking about the local African league, guys. How do you think we can leverage African teams, football teams, now club sides? How do you think we can leverage on the kind of exposure? Or Alila, what kind of exposure do they even want? They've got all the money in the world anyway, the Saudi Arabian team. But let's talk about the Brazilian teams like Fluminense, Botafogo, and the other ones that have come there, and there's this galvanizational support within within not just within the Americans, but the worldwide. Everyone looking at them. How can we leverage on that as African teams? And I know you both have your local teams that you support, just like I do in Africa. How can we leverage on that? One, how can we improve when we represent Africa in this sort of competition? Graham, let me hear from you first.
First and foremost, the sort of investment that goes into football. I mean, you remember the Brazilian league has been a breeding ground of top talent to Europe. Mm-hmm. And some of these talents go back to Brazil to even show up there, or perhaps make the league better. You can talk about the Flamingos, you can talk about these Fluminenses, you can talk about name them. I mean, currently, I think as a Silva, the former Chelsea player, is back in one of the teams, was back home. I think one of these Uruguayan players, a lot of these guys go back, after they're done with their playing career in Europe. So in terms of the talent, they have it. And in terms of the money, they also do have it. And so that is something we cannot compare ourselves to, because the number of remittance that goes into Brazil or the South American football in terms of the players that move into Europe is huge as compared to that of Africa. Again, if you come down to the African continent and you're looking at players or teams that can play at that level, then you are obviously talking about the Sundowns, Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates, maybe. You're talking about maybe TP Mazembe. You're talking about the Alis, the Wydad clubs, the Ismaili clubs, and all those top clubs in North America and Morocco and Egypt as well that can have the wherewithal. I'm a Ghanaian. Nuhu is a Ghanaian. You're a Nigerian. Tell me, Enyimba, Enugu Rangers, Kano Pillars, are they able to have the financial wherewithal to compete? Why are you laughing? To compete at that level? Because even in terms of player recruitment, it's difficult for you to say that you're going to have even Enugu Rangers or even Kano Pillars getting players from even across Cameroon. Even though, yes, there are some players, what are the level of talent that they get from Cameroon, even Congo or even Guinea to come and shove the Nigerian league? Gone are the days where the Nigerian leagues were getting Ghanaian players to come and play for them. Now it is no more the same style. The league, the texture, or even the level of football being played between these two giants in West Africa is no more. Go to Ivory Coast. What is the nature of the league there? Go to Burkina Faso. Go to Togo, Benin. What's the level of league that we are playing there? So when it comes to the FIFA Club World Cup, it is only the Southern African team, and even that we are even talking about South Africa, Sundowns or Kaizer Chiefs or Orlando Pirates.
Pirates.
perhaps those. And then if you come to the middle belt of Africa, I'm not too sure that you have any team within the middle belt of Africa that's a financial model to go and play at that level or that investment. So it's going to be, if you are doing a segmentation, it's going to be north and south. That's where you're going to have the money coming in. So in leveraging, that was why my friend Mamadi Gay cleverly said that the African teams were going to struggle. And so by the first round, all the African teams were going to exit the competition. And rightly so, no, it happened. So we can talk about the leveraging, but it's only a fraction of teams in the continent that can play at the FIFA Club World Cup. Because you mentioned the investment drive. You can't compete with Real Madrid. You can't compete with PSG. You can't compete with Chelsea. You can't compete with Bayern Munich. You can't compete because if you look at the financial turnover with every year, that is put that money together. Because if these are teams that are buying players for £55 million, buying players for 70 and the rest.
That's probably a budget for some countries in Africa.
That's the point. Thank you. So it tells you the difficulties that within the West Coast, the Middle Coast, or the Middle Belt of Africa, we can't. Cameroon cannot produce a team that can compete at that level. Ghana cannot. Nigeria, same. That the story of Nigeria, I don't want to talk about it because that's very disappointing. Because I don't want to talk about it. With all the money that's being thrown on social events and all those things, the teams are still struggling to get sponsorship and all those things. So that's some of the the buts. So the leveraging, African can leverage, but only to the benefit of the North and South Africa. Basically, that's my point.
No, I want to take your own opinion about that. But the other thing I also want you to touch on is we need to do a lot back home in Africa. Have we lost Nuhu? Okay, no. We need to do quite a lot back home in Africa. When I say Africa, now probably sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, discounting South Africa because they invest a lot in their football. You've mentioned what the Bayana and the coach you spoke to, are they invested in their female football? Same thing with their club football. And even in North Africa. That's why you see quite a lot of North African players. They don't even want to leave home. The typical Moroccan player is comfortable at home playing. Egyptian player, they're also comfortable. Algerian, they're probably also comfortable playing there at home. But it's only Nigerian players, Ghanaian players, those Cameroon, they play just one game in one local league. That's it, boom. They're abroad playing in Afghanistan or probably Cambodia. You know what I mean? So how can we, what do we need to do, to develop those local leagues, to bring it back to the days of old when we had the great, Ashanti Kotoko, the Accras of Oak, and all those teams, Shooting Stars and Rangers, when we had proper men's league and, you go to the football stadium and you enjoy proper football. What can we do to do that?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer because the factors are so many. The factors are too many. I predicted the same as Mamadou Gueye predicted. I told everybody who asked me about how Africa were going to fare at the Club World Cup. I told them they were just going to throw US, get some money and come back. There was no way they were going to be able to compete. Even today, Saudi clubs are far gone. We can't compare ourselves to Saudi clubs, let alone to even think of comparing ourselves to Europe. I think everything goes down to the various economies of the sub-Saharan countries, the ecosystem, how the ecosystem is faring in each of these sub-Saharan African countries. You see, you mentioned that players playing in Morocco, players playing in South Africa would feel comfortable playing at home and they will never think of moving out. The reason is that whatever they are getting in South Africa, whatever they are getting in Morocco, Egypt, Libya, is better than what players are taking in mediocre European countries. You get a point. Players playing in South Africa are earning better salaries than players even in Hungary, players playing in Bulgaria, players playing in Sweden, Norway. Most of players in South Africa and the North African countries are getting better salaries than players in these various countries. But come to Sub-Saharan Africa, a player hears of a foreign deal, whether Cambodia, whether Bermuda. Once it is a foreign country, he is ready to leave. That is the problem, because the system is broken to the extent that players, not even footballers alone, nurses, drivers, doctors are willing to leave their various countries in Sub-Saharan Africa to get greener environment in Singapore, Vietnam, and other countries. We at the end of this of the season in Ghana, we have one of the best players moving to Cambodia. Nana Kwame Opon. He has signed for Cambodia, and the family members are congratulating him for making such a move. This is the situation we find ourselves in. So, with the exception of a team like El Ali, who at a particular year can be boastful of having, let's say, $20 million budget surplus. Which other team in Africa can even get $1 million budget surplus? And none of the teams in Africa, not even the Orlando Pirates and Canada teams, can do that. It is only El Ali that is capable of getting that kind of amount at the end of a particular year. And how do Ali even fare against these European teams? It only takes a miracle for us to get a team that will be able to compete at that level. As of today, the most expensive footballer signed by an African team is around $8 million. The most expensive. He's a Brazilian, Keno. He signed for Pyramids FC. I think that was 2022. They signed him for $8 million. And that remains the most expensive footballer signed by an African team on the continent. How much are teams in Europe and other continents signing players, even their salaries, even their wages? There's no way we can compete with these Europeans. Yes, it happens in football. Once in a while, there could be a surprise, like TP Mazembe did in 2010 when they got to the finals of the Club World Cup. But that Club World Cup had only 6 teams. This one is having over 20 teams, and that becomes very difficult to even get a breakthrough, let alone think of making an impact. I think if our African countries are not able to fix our economies, if African football ecosystem is not fixed, we will only go to wherever the Club World Cup is going on, tour the countries, then get some monies from FIFA, come back to Africa and enjoy the money.
I think at some point in the life of this show, we will need to probably have a look at the business of football, where people need to understand that even football its own can earn quite a lot of currencies to you. I mean, can earn quite a lot of money, when you actually develop it, organize it, and put in all the facilities. And I want to take the Saudis as an example. They've developed it. They've got an ambition. Yeah, and they're close to the ambition. If you look at it now, the way the Saudi league is strong, Ronaldo will come out and say he's one of the top 5 in the world. With what Al Hilal did in the FIFA World Cup, a lot of people jump on that bandwagon and said, "Oh, it is true that what Ronaldo said. Oh, they beat this team in Europe. It is true." But again, you look at the team, the parade. You look at the players that play for them, for Al Hilal, Koulibaly. You look at all those star players, Malcolm, and all those people, because obviously, where there's money, players go. They don't care, they just go. So I think at one point, yeah, we will talk about the business of football in the life of the show. But we're talking about players now. I want us to look at transfers. And guys, what's the one that's excited me the most is about Mohamed Kudus, and I know you guys obviously know him quite a lot. What's the feel? What are people saying back home about Kudus leaving West Ham and joining Spurs that will be playing in Champions League, courtesy of a Europa League win over my friends Man United?
Don't start. But unless I stand to be credited. No, is he the first Ghanaian player to play for Tottenham?
Well,
yes, I think so. Oh, no, I think if we talk about Ghanaian international, I think Kevin Presboate passed through, but Ghanaian born should be Kudus.
So Ghanaian born, just like Partey played for Arsenal, Ghanaian born the first time he did. That's the same. So Ghanaian born is the first time. So history in making, basically, when it comes to. I think with the likes of Kudus and even Partey, they were players who moving to certain clubs made history, because if you take a look at Ghanaian players who are playing the English Premier League, Tony Yeboah for Leeds United, and Eric Nyankun, I think for Everton, Asamoah Gyan for Sunderland, and a couple of other players.
The Ayew brothers.
Yes, the Ayew brothers. Even going back to the 90s, because there were a lot of Ghanaian players who blazed the trail before these players were coming into them. But we don't even talk about them. That's a very sad scenario about these guys who are playing the English Premier League or the German Bundesliga way back before these guys. But I am excited because, I mean, remember Kudus played in the Conference League at the point? Is it with
West Ham?
West Ham, yeah. And he had also played the Champions League with Ajax before moving into England. So now not playing in, and these are competitions he loves to play because of the exposure and all those things and the value that he adds to his football. So from Ajax Champions League to Conference League in West Ham, and now moving back to the Champions League, I think it's a very good move, and I think the pricing too is very good for his value. I think it's at £55 million or so. It's good for him. And the expectation is that the Tottenham team itself should be able to, play certain football. I mean, Thomas Frank is a new coach from Brentford coming down to Tottenham. I'm hoping that he's able to get the best out of the players that is coming to me, as compared to Postecoglou, who was then there. And so I am excited for Kudus. So Ghana is still going to be in the, the EPL in terms of name. It's only sad, very sad, that the situation for Thomas Partey sort of had to come at this time. Very sad. So this season, we can only mention Kudus, perhaps. That is the only player for Ghana. If Ghana is mentioning Kudus, I don't know, my brothers in Nigeria, which player you're mentioning.
Of course, we got Osimhen now.
I'm talking the English Premier League. I'm not talking about the European League.
What about Alexi Wobi? What about Calvin? What about Calvin Bassey?
Are you for you? I mean, I'm not saying they're bad players anyway, but I'm just saying poster boys. Those are the poster boys. No, those are the poster boys.
Alexi Wobi is a poster boy for Fulham.
Okay.
Calvin Bassey is a poster boy for Fulham.
Yeah.
You know why I'm laughing.
Ola is also a poster boy for Nottingham
Forest.
You know why I'm laughing. You know why I'm laughing.
Why are you laughing?
I'm going back into the days, and I'm thinking, wow, this is
Kanu and JJ.
Yeah. I mean, those were names you cannot go around when it comes to the. But I mean, unfortunately, these are the players we have, so we have to make do with them.
Yeah. No, I mentioned Osimhen now because and he's moved to Galatasaray and all that. At one point, everyone thought he was going to come to Chelsea, then Man United, and Arsenal. That don't look like work. What do you think the problem is with Osimhen?
I think Osimhen would want a club he will be comfortable to play, not where he will have to compete before he can get a place to play. Yes, Saudi guaranteed him of everything that he needed, but I think Osimhen wants to remain in Europe. He feels he still has that ability to compete with any top footballer in Europe. That's why he's remaining in Europe, especially at a team that he had an excellent spell with just last season. And this time they will play the UEFA Champions League. If they are lucky, they are able to get to the group stage level. At least we will see Osimhen competing with some of these top teams. And I think maybe after this season, if he want to move, he can move. You know, he's very expensive player. His value is at the top, and Napoli wouldn't want to lose Osimhen for any amount of money. So I think Manchester United, Chelsea, and the other big teams in Europe that failed to persuade him is because of the kind of fees they will have to convince Napoli before they can get Osimhen. That's why they are not approached. The Saudis were ready to pay the money, but the player himself is not willing to move outside Europe, and I think that's quite some positive decision from him. Looking at his age, I think he has what it takes to still dominate European leagues. If Osimhen moves today to Saudi after a season or 2 or 3, he will still want to come back. Look at the young players that moved to Saudi. Most of them are now coming back to Europe again, just to make sure they get to that kind of competition they've always wanted. So yes, look, money will take you to Saudi, but competitiveness and name-wise and everything, you still want to come back to Europe one day to continue. So I think it's a very good decision for him. But for Chelsea, for Manchester United not getting close to even signing him, I think the valuation of his quality is way above this club's budget, and I think that's the reason why they are not considering him.
Well, I think it's about time we just round up now, and you know what? There was another transfer that actually surprised me. Is about Samadingra that left Brighton to go to Sunderland. It was really shocking because I thought he had already established himself there at Brighton. But Adingra now would be playing.
And he has to do with enough. I mean, he wants more playing time.
Possibly, yeah. Again,
yeah, I think last season he dropped in terms of form. He really dropped in terms of form. Yes, he was playing, but that wasn't the Adingra we knew the previous season. And I think with Sunderland being a newly promoted side in the EPL, he can have the freedom to play more games, grow his confidence, and then probably make sure that he becomes the main man of the team. And his fellow countryman Amad Diallo was a big star when he played alone with Sunderland. I think if he gets everything right, if the coaches are willing to build a team around him, he's going to be the face of the team. And I think that's one positive thing, because it was not guaranteed that this season he was going to get a lot of playing time at Brighton. I think that's why he took that decision.
Okay. As we round up, guys, short answers. One African player we should look forward to in the EPL this season coming. Let me start with you, Graham.
Wow, this is very tough. This season, I don't think we've seen enough movement in the transfer. I mean, there is only Kudus that's made a move that is in town, but I don't know if they're maybe it's still relatively young. I think that the transfer window has not been shut yet, so It will be difficult for us to make the judgment now until we see some of the movements probably before the start of the season. So for now,
No,
maybe there could be some surprises.
Okay. No, what African player would you like to see in the Premier League if you had the opportunity to bring one in?
That's that question. Which player? Which player? Uh,
Kevin Bassey.
no, Kambazi is already in the EPL.
He's already here
I think
in Fulham now.
I think the only player today that I would wish to be in the EPL is Ashraf Hakimi, and I know it's not possible.
Yeah.
That's a tough
I would have
one.
loved to see Osimhen, but Osimhen also
Yeah.
has his own plans. And I don't think there's any team in the EPL that's ready to meet his wages, honestly.
No.
Because
I don't think
Manchester United is looking to cut down wages. They won't go for Osimhen, honestly. They won't.
See, you know what? We probably need to dedicate just one episode on Man United. One day we'll satisfy your curiosity, Graham.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys,
I'll tell you more about the team.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining me on this show. No, thank you for popping in. And I hope you join us in the next edition. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you today. And Charlie, Graham, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
See you next week.
All right.
Thank
you very much, guys.
Thanks for coming, Church. Yeah, thank you so much. And that's the pilot for today's Africa Soccer Podcast, first edition. And join us next week for the next one. Before then, you know what? Africa is Africa. Beautiful country. And we will definitely get there. Thank you. My name is Gabe. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right.